I never meant to kill him.
Luke is buried in Virginia. He's now buried in the state of Washington. He's buried in Alberta. Nick is buried in Wisconsin. An Australian father placed this memorial marker in Scotland after his son, 16 years old, was one-punched. He's buried in Florida. Tony is buried in Illinois.
I was looking at 167 months.
Wow. He's buried in South Dakota.
Everything about prison is uncomfortable.
You don't see yourself as a big, tough guy.
No, not at all. Look at myself as being an unfortunate person to hit somebody in the wrong spot.
I didn't think he was, intending to cause anybody harm.
He's buried in California. Robert is buried in Louisiana.
When he was laying down, and he was bleeding, that's what I remember.
He's now buried here in Quebec.
Next thing I know, there's 30 cop cars.
I've known people who lost a child, but I never thought that it would be anything like this.
We thought that he was going to be okay and pull out of it.
The brick is in Oregon.
My family felt insulted by the punishment that Jeff received.
He's buried in New Jersey. Clifford is buried in Michigan. He's buried in Georgia. He's buried in Texas. He's buried in Ontario. He's buried in West Virginia.
I have nightmares about it.
People were screaming, because you could hear him hit his head.
I don't even know what happened, but I know that I was involved in taking a man's life.
He was buried in Pennsylvania. He's buried in South Carolina.
I started calling hospitals, and I finally reached the hospital that he was at, and they told me that he had just gone in for his first brain surgery.
I did not see the outside for 10 months.
So you probably never saw your punch through him? I think he did.
I was young and I made a very terrible mistake that's been my burden to carry with every day since, and every day for the rest of my life.
What does it feel like being the person responsible for the defeat of a public official? He's buried in Indiana.
I just don't want to be looked at as a murderer.
A part of me died when Colin died, and no amount of time will ever bring that back. Nothing will ever bring Colin back, and I will never be able to hug him, kiss him. I will never be able to hear his voice or his laugh again. He wasn't there when I graduated college. He wasn't there when I started my first job, and he will never physically be with me again. At 24 years old, I should not have to be living and planning a life without my best friend, without my Colin.
I miss my son.
I want to ask for forgiveness. It's something that I didn't mean to happen.
It's really hard to talk about it. His eyes were closed, and they were kind of rolled back in his head, and he had blood coming out of his mouth, and he was shaking, and I just kept holding his hand and telling him it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And
He's buried in Oklahoma now.
What was the altercation over?
Some words between one of my buddies and the victim that died.
There's been a couple murders while I've been in here for a year. I don't know what they were involved or entailed, but I'm sure it was nonsense.
It tore her apart. It took a toll on her at first, especially when they hit me with the murder charge.
He's buried in Massachusetts.
Something I never thought would happen. Pretty much my life has been one great big post-traumatic stress disorder.
There was a video of what happened. It was outside the bar. There was a camera, and when my lawyer came with her laptop and showed it to me, you hear the punch, you hear him hit his head, and it was like the most horrible sound I've ever heard in my entire life.
James is buried in Ohio.